Hey everyone, welcome back to the Crescendo Go-to-Market podcast. And today we have Oleksii from Slise, one of the first Web3 ad networks. Oleksii, why don't you introduce yourself and what Slise is?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Oleksii, founder and CEO at Slise. Maybe just starting from my personal background, most of my career was in research. So I started from doing research in physics, then switched to computer science, and eventually ended up doing like academic research in AI. So published a number of papers, went to conferences and been doing it, across institutions like Facebook AI Research and Oxford, but eventually felt that I want to apply my knowledge and my expertise to solving real world problems. So shifted to startups, played around for a bit, built a few smaller products, different social products, different media channels. Eventually, I stumbled on the larger idea where together with my co-founder Adi, we founded our first company called Suggester. It was a Web2 company in personalization for e-commerce space. Uh, it went quite well. We went through it through with YC. We went with it through YC, and but eventually, I'll tell you the story what it, what happened to Suggester, but eventually it drove us to Web3. So now I'm working on this new company called Slise, which basically doing very simple thing, and solves very obvious problem as we think about it. Basically, we just help projects reach Web3 users, and we want to do it the most efficient way, the most transparent way, and by using wallet data instead of cookies. Yeah, why we do it? Because we were in the space for a bit. We saw the situation with Web3 marketing. We think that it's disastrous right now. It still replicates the early days of the internet, where people use like primitive, not data-driven techniques. Everything was just breaking up, and yeah, users, there were no retention, no good metrics around user acquisition, no proper tools, and now we kind of see it's changing. And Slise being on the kind of middle layer of this funnel, where we are responsible for the actual traffic, for bringing, for connecting advertisers to the end users, helping them to capture user attention and bring it to their products. Now we want to power this layer of the growth ecosystem by enabling again, the most efficient way to reach these users and to acquire.
Got it. Yeah, that's really fascinating.
Right. So how we do it is basically we built a Web3 native ad network by connecting publishers, who in our case are dApps. So the Web3 native applications who have existing user bases who solve other problems like it could be DEXs, wallets, analytics tools, things like that, and bringing kind of their audience to advertisers. And basically, we power kind of this middle layer by enabling advertisers to run advertising campaigns on these dApps, kind of in the basically first time possible, by not placing ads on the media channels or social networks, but on the actual dApps. So we kind of enabling it, with all the tech around campaign creation, targeting, analytics, and things like that. And so far, the product been live for quite some time. We're still quite early, but we already saw good traction, good proofs from the market that what we are doing is actually needed. That we solve a really painful problem. Which been proven by really big brands in the space using us even such early days. So now we're working with PayPal, we're working with MetaMask, we're working with a lot of kind of bigger brands across B2C and B2B. And yeah, again, being very early product, we already capture like more than 1 million of unique users. So far it's been great. Very excited to work on Slise, and to help basically shape Web3 marketing, for the future.
Yeah, and I personally think Slice is a very exciting project. I think the fact is that there's really not many solutions for good Web3 native advertising, and I do think Slice is solving a major problem, and I think ad networks are one of the 100x opportunities in the space. So I am very excited to see what's coming, and I do feel that advertisers get involved early, start testing, with ad networks that are out now, like Slice, because you will be the first to really be able to take advantage of like when the next bull run, the next cycle happens. Because you kind of need to obviously learn how to use these platforms. Like the data you know is kind of like you basically have to feed data into these algorithms, right? Like I imagine for you guys, if you're working with an advertiser, and the more data you have, the better results you can get. So I do think it's important for advertisers, even if right now it's not like the biggest volume or even if it's not the most profitable, start messing around with this and start like actually running campaigns just so you can start feeding data into these systems and be ready for scaling when the time comes.
Yeah, I mean, even for us, kind of just taking time to build out the product, work on the feedback, continuously improve it. So when the big wave comes, we are ready to take it.
Exactly. Now, obviously you're building Slice now, but I do want to take a step back into kind of like your journey, and especially you did Facebook research, you did research for Facebook, right? Like you basically were helping them with AI. Could you go into that and how that affected your decision to become an entrepreneur and what you were doing there?
Yeah, sure, sure. So, I went to Facebook right from the school, you can say. I did my master, but right after my master, I went to Facebook. So it was my first like corporate career, corporate experience. Uh, it was quite interesting. I also was in headquarters in Menlo Park, so it also was my first time in the US. So yeah, it was quite big experience, quite new for me from the school to go through all of it. Um, I would say I liked it overall. It's a very comfortable place to work. Just nice, work-life balance, other things. But again, being super young, ambitious, kind of, I felt that I'm a bit stagnating. And also, I wasn't super excited about research at that point. Again, there was some AI hype before, but the current AI hype wave hasn't come yet. So it was some kind of, not say kind of bear market, but yeah, AI research was just an industry like any other research. A lot of science, a lot of math, a lot of bullshit with like conferences, reviews for the journals, like academic stuff, which really nobody wants to deal with. So, a lot of kind of um, hard efforts for very, I would say, disproportional returns. Because now research is really, really hard. But, I didn't feel that I'm getting rewarded for it like in the right way, for the amount of effort I put into it. And apart from that, yeah, I just started feeling that like, whether it's really something for me, whether I want to spend all my life doing it, looking at all the professors and all the um, kind of renowned scientists in the lab. Again, didn't look like a very exciting future for me. And yeah, and there was, and because being in the Silicon Valley, there was this whole world of startups where people actually doing similar things or sometimes even much easier things, but they solve real problems with it and they capture value much more efficiently. So at some point I got, really interested in this whole kind of industry, in this market. Um, yeah, eventually I decided to try. I had no experience in entrepreneurship. I mean, I had little experience, but like nothing kind of serious, nothing very technical. But I felt that like, okay, if not now, then when? Because it was time when I had some savings. I was still young, I didn't have family and kind of commitments. It was, my time to try. So basically, for some time, like for a few months, I just uh, was on my own, trying different ideas, using different no-code tools, which were quite popular back then. Um, Trying basically to, you know, earn money like out of thin air, just based on my experience and based on my ideas. It was quite interesting experience. Nothing out of it, I would say, worked. Uh, yeah, there was like one product which I sold, which was like a news channel. Very interesting product, which is still alive today and still working. Um, but apart from that, yeah, nothing really, huge came out of it. But then what happened then? It's very interesting. So I got into like accelerator, slash incubator called Entrepreneur First, and there are kind of basically a couple of them is like Entrepreneur First and Antler, and they're very different from typical startup accelerators as we know them, because they like to invest like in talent. not in the companies, but just in talent, in people. So they get founders at the really early stages without even ideas, without teams. Like they put them all into like one pool, and they hope that companies will come out of it, and then they fund these companies. So that's how I started my kind of startup journey more seriously. Already with co-founder, whom I found in EF. Yeah, I moved to Singapore, and that's kind of where Suggester journey started.
Got it. And Suggester is basically, it was like recommendation engine for e-commerce stores. Oh, yeah. What was Suggester exactly?
Yeah, pretty much, pretty much. There are multiple ways you can call it. It's like you can call it, first-party data management solution, or you can call it like recommendation engine, or you can call it AI for e-commerce. But in the end, yeah, we just took any data which was available on the Shopify stores, from their users, from their storefronts. We put it in our models, where kind of I could apply my AI expertise, to building kind of this really smart kind of models, which then would spit out like recommendations, what we should show to this specific user, how to upsell and cross sell different e-commerce items to them.
Got it. And I know you guys got some solid momentum. You guys also, I believe, got into Y Combinator with it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So after EF, we went further. We raised more money. We went live. We were featured on Shopify homepage. I think eventually we worked with 150 brands or so. And yeah, we went through Y Combinator Winter 22 batch.
Got it. And then what ended up happening with that? What were kind of like the, I guess, lessons learned, or what ended up, what was the evolution of that?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of a wild decision because on the paper everything looked kind of really well. We were growing, we started hitting first revenue, Y Combinator kind of recognition, good brand. Generally things they looked well, and in fact they did go well. It for that point in time it was really kind of good place to be. But having an overview as founders, we looked at our projections, so where we are heading. And at this point, we tried different growth tactics. We tried different channels. We looked at our competitors. We looked at our client base. And basically, we felt that, there was kind of two big problems which eventually led us to shut down Suggester. Is that we felt that product market fit was not strong enough. So it still kind of it was useful for our audience and for our users, but not useful enough, to pay a lot for it to make kind of our B2B unit economics actually work. So it kind of, there was some fit, but it wasn't kind of, very hot. And secondly, because we have operated specifically on this market of SMB stores, kind of mom and pop stores on Shopify, because that's kind of where we saw opportunity. Because of course, Amazon's and big players, they have their solutions in place already. Our whole thesis was to bring the advanced tools, like kind of advanced personalization from Amazon to these kind of small SMB stores. But then, yeah, look at this market and actually realize that it's quite limited, in terms of like their paying capabilities. It was quite small for us, to build something huge out of it. And of course, because we developed it by the venture model, it only made sense to do it for us and for investors if it could be like a unicorn. And even though we had revenue, even though we had traction, we saw that, okay, it will take us either too long or, we won't be able to make it at all to this huge status. And it made more sense to us to just return the money and say like, hey, here's the situation. As soon as we realized that we cannot fulfill this potential, these expectations, just return the money and decided to focus our time, and our efforts on something that actually can fulfill this potential.
Got it. So I guess the issue was that the smaller e-com stores, they didn't really have the budget, and it wasn't creating enough of a lift, I guess, for them to justify paying, let's say, like what they would pay for an agency, right? Like, so it basically, and were you guys selling kind of like a Shopify app, or?
Yeah, exactly. It was Shopify app. I mean, we could expand beyond that, but in the end, yeah, the issue was that it still was an optimization level solution where we could improve your performance by like a few percentage points. And for big stores, who make like hundreds of millions, this couple of percentage points makes a lot of difference. But for the small stores, they literally have like so many other problems on top of their mind, like with fulfillment, customer support, uh, other things, just shipping, that is optimization of user experience, a couple of percentage points from upsells were not such a painful issue, to pay a lot for that.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean that totally makes sense. And I come from that world as well of like a lot of direct to commerce. And I would say that most small store owners are not that sophisticated when it comes to tech. And it's just um, I can see the challenges of scaling to them unless you're able to go for those big stores that are paying like 100 million, or sorry, that are doing 100 million, 200 million a year in revenue. Um, I kind of think that if it wasn't a VC backed venture, if it was more bootstrapped and you also bundled it with an agency model, that would be a really interesting like business model, almost like getting acquired by a large direct to commerce agency because you give them like an edge in terms of their optimization. And then because it's being paired with optimization efforts on the agency's part, the value of the services become higher. Higher. Did you ever think about that, or was that ever like a consideration in terms of a potential pivot? Or
We thought about that, and we looked for like potential synergies when, we wanted to exit. And then it still was kind of hard just because of the logistics of it, like code base, the whole operations was kind of a bit tricky. But still, you should understand that like Shopify market is quite competitive. First it's small, but it has kind of its leaders. There are also kind of a lot of different players. There are like kind of, so how to say, like um, developers, who do a lot of different things together. So yeah, kind of, they can play synergy kind of between different apps. And yeah, again, most money are to be made on these larger accounts, which, actually on Shopify, you have the Shopify Plus plan, where I think now there are around like 2,000 stores. So kind of it's like premium Shopify plans for larger stores, but, there are still kind of just 2,000 of them. And, how big of the market could they make? So that kind of was our concern, is that, like there was limited room to show, even if we would want to scale more aggressively.
yeah, and it's really like a red ocean, like you said, right? Like a lot of Shopify developers. While I think the Web3 space, definitely. Let's get to that. Why did you
Yeah.
decide to get into Web3?
I mean, what's exactly that reason that, being tired and of this continuous like competition and, very small, let's say, margins on this very dense, very optimized market of e-commerce, you know, looking at Web3 from that perspective was like, yeah, completely empty fields where anything you would take just would start growing because there's literally no one else doing it yet, and still a lot of very obvious, very painful ideas and very painful problems are still yet to be solved. So it looked like much more like, first, easier play, secondly more more convincing in terms of like, oh yeah, I know that I solved something people actually need. And of course, the whole potential of Web3 market also, looked quite exciting, back then when we started. Now probably it's a bigger question, but though we still believe in it. But when we started, when the like somewhere close to the end of the bull run, I mean, a big motivation for me, apart from just the whole market perspective, was that I saw a lot of very smart people coming into this space. And even though, I didn't really dig too deep into like, economics or the like tech of crypto market, uh, trying to understand whether it actually will be uh, huge or not. I just, I basically bet on all these people, all the developers whom I saw, shifting into crypto, into Web3, from all the different kind of areas, like, like AI research, different other scientific fields, and it was like, it looked convincing enough for me to understand, something is cooking and something will come out of that. So that's kind of how my interest in Web3 market uh, arose, from all these people, all this movement, all this development which was going on, and amount of opportunity in the space.
Yeah, and when did you start building Slice?
So it started like, we went through YC in winter. We had demo day end of March, start of April. Right there we decided to shut down, and right there I decided to continue with Slice because we had this much motivation to just let's continue. It's, I think, we didn't want to feel that, oh, we like it didn't work out or we need to stop? It was it like, yeah, we make this decision, it makes sense, but we're still motivated to continue. Let's continue right ahead. So I didn't take any break, and in the May of 2022, when I remember as today that when Luna crashed, basically I started my journey in Web3.
Yeah, it made sense because I think that's around that period is when a lot of the Web3 Martech products started building because everybody realized, okay, this is going to be pretty big, but everybody also realized that the growth tooling in the space was completely non-existent. There's really no infrastructure for growth, and I feel like there was a big cohort of like this last bull run where a lot of growth marketers came in from Web2 to start poking around, and then essentially you have all of these martech startups starting up. So it's really interesting, and I'm really glad to see that it's happening. And I do feel like it is the right time where you start at the right time where it's not too early, where VCs are like, why, like, this is not gonna be needed, but it's like at that exact position when people are trying to figure out growth, and there's this conversation. So the timing was impeccable, I think, for Slice.
It was quite all right, and even right now we feel that we are in this kind of cohort of new companies, like martech companies who started around same period, with different attribution tools and with different CRMs, and surprisingly enough, there was like nothing really serious before, or I mean, nothing really new comes up after. So yeah, we are moving together in this cohort, basically talking to each other, seeing how we can develop this market, how it will grow, and kind of basically creating it from scratch.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I'm curious with Slice so far, how much volume have you seen? How much momentum have you seen? I'm just curious, like, what does the early stages of a Web3 ad network look like in terms of revenue or, like, I guess, spend by customers?
Yeah, so for the volume, I would say like, volume for us is a bit of a vanity metric because volume is very easy to get, and it's very easy to get to the big number, but it's not always good, and I'll tell you why. Because, the incumbents we work against is like, mostly, where can you place ads now? Mostly it's kind of media platforms like news websites, magazines, coin trackers, things like that. They don't have wallet connection. They had a lot of kind of organic traffic from all the different sources. And yeah, I mean, their technical capabilities are quite limited. So when advertisers place their ads there, some of these, biggest websites can have up to like 100 million of monthly hits, or impressions, let's say. And then when we look at the dApp radar, we see around 2 million of monthly active wallets on chain. So, and then you get two and two together, seeing like that, okay, we have 2 million of wallets who are actual users who do something in crypto, and you have 100 million of impressions which you serve to, who knows whom, basically making kind of 98% of this spend completely irrelevant, going to waste. So for us, it was kind of our mission from day one to just at least to cut off this irrelevant traffic, and focus only on this kind of core audience of hardcore users. So, and there, yes, it's small, but, it generates like 98% of the value. It's very skewed kind of this market. And again, and even now, we don't try to scale it crazy, diluting our quality. On contrary, we moderate, as we grow, we moderate even harder, we curate our publishers even more strict, just to ensure that our quality of this traffic, of this audience will not dilute this number.
That makes sense. So essentially, it sounds like you're optimizing far more for quality and conversions versus just pure traffic and numbers.
Yes, yes, yes. But was actual numbers, how can I represent it? Well, I mean, it's growing, and like there are different months, like we had months where, we would double it, but right now we see somewhere around 2 and 3 million of monthly impressions. Again, it's not like, I mean, it's a big part of this market, but there's still room to grow. But we feel quite comfortable here because we know that, okay, we got to this point, but we are sure about our publishers, about our traffic. We tried more publishers, and whatever didn't work, we filtered it out. So yeah, and we only want to grow and increase this number, given we find good publishers, again, good traffic sources, which will make sense to add to this network.
Mhm. That makes sense. And how do you view, for example, gaming when it comes to your both your publishing and demand side, right? How do you view a vertical like gaming?
Yeah, so in the reality is like we don't see much of gaming.
Mm.
It doesn't happen. That doesn't come to our eyes. Specifically on the advertising side, because we also would expect that being in Web3, we serve different verticals, and we have publishers across DeFi, NFT, gaming, trading, things like that, and we would expect that, of course, it would make a lot of sense for Web3 games acquire Web3 gamers. Yeah, but surprisingly, we don't see much of like marketing spend in our marketing efforts happening in the gaming space right now, at least from what we see, in Web3 native tools. Because also kind of what we realized to this point, being on the market talking to different players, is that for Web3 games, most of them, would try to appeal to much wider audience of general audience of Web2 users, where they would abstract the wallet away. uh, like you know they don't want to focus just on the MetaMask users, who made a couple of millions of the whole audience. They would try to make just a good game, would appeal to anyone in Web2, and then it allows them to go outside of Web3, and advertise on Meta, on Google, acquire just regular Web2 users, probably at a fraction of the cost, because they don't need Web3 users. Um, yeah, and that's why, and it makes sense for us. I would feel bad taking money, and kind of charging them for very expensive Web3 traffic if they don't need it. So I'll say, yeah, something like us, like Slice, or other Web3 native tools, they do make sense if they make a lot of sense for products that need experienced Web3 native audience, who has wallets, who have some assets, who know what to do with them, who know how to trade them, how to exchange them. Um, yeah, and if it's the case, that's the most straightforward and the best way to acquire such audience. But if you don't need these users and all these with all these properties, then it doesn't make sense to overpay for it. So then maybe that's why partially we don't see so much gaming. Another factor that I believe it's not been very active right now, so not so many games are launching these days. So it's also probably a factor.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think a lot of the Web3 games, they're going for more Web2 users. And I do agree that it seems like probably the niche that Slice is really tailored towards is perhaps DeFi, maybe a bit of social fi. Would that be relatively accurate?
A lot of DeFi, NFT also kind of is quite specific niche, and we have some NFT analytics tools. We have some minting tools, but again, for NFT, we see kind of the similar picture where even though we had some publishers, we didn't see a lot of demand for it. So again, how many collections are being launched and been minted these days? Not so many. Like how many of them are actually advertising? Not so many. So we didn't see enough demand, and in the end, yeah, at this point of time, most of our demand, of our customers, they're coming from DeFi world. All kind of, not say infra, but like utility tools, like different wallets or security tools, or yeah, things like that. Um, but yeah, not many like specific consumer-facing applications like NFT or games.
Got it. And what do you think is the most successful type of funnel you've seen so far in Web3? Are there, because obviously as we get into ads, you're not just talking about ads, you're talking about what people do after they click on the ad. And a funnel, for those who don't know, is basically the landing page and the page after that. So would be interested on your thoughts on the best funnels you've seen.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm the best person to talk about it because we don't do so much analytics on the actual page of the uh, product. Now we work with attribution tools who help us with that because we do want to account for this data and for these conversions, but it's a whole different product to do this kind of analytics. So what but of course we see stuff, and we go through we work with different advertisers, different campaigns. I clearly can tell, what doesn't work. So what clearly doesn't work is to send traffic to the Discord. It doesn't work to send traffic to Twitter. Yes, again, and conversions are much lower from web to mobile apps because if it's like extra step of going to App Store, we can separate, we can segment the traffic which would come from mobile. But again, doing kind of having this funnels at like mobile browser and then mobile landing page, then going to App Store and downloading app is a bit full of friction, so doesn't work as well also. And yeah, and the best funnels are the simplest, the most straightforward funnels where users get on some landing page where there's very clear CTA straight on this landing page, whether it's kind of filling the form or minting something or signing up. And that's so far, again, it's all the same stuff from Web 2, but yeah, things like that work. And then if it's all of the steps, so basically minimizing the number of steps and optimizing each of these steps separately produces the best results usually.
Makes sense. And are you with Slice able to track conversions back, or how do you deal with attributions and conversion tracking?
Yeah, so the body was like lagging a couple of minutes, but I mentioned that we do work with attribution providers. So we have something on our own which we integrate, just to track clicks and kind of very basic information. But the whole attribution is completely different product, which needs its own kind of analytics. It needs its own kind of integrations, data sources. So what we do, yeah, we partner with attribution providers, with kind of other apps, other kind of players in our cohort, and yeah, we exchange data with them because for them it makes sense to report, also advertising spend, advertising impressions, and things like that. While for us, we capture all the data related to advertising, but we also want to know what happens after. So we do show conversions in our dashboard, in our analytics page, but usually do it with help of other providers.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And final question, the trick question, the most important question. What do you think is the vertical in Web3 that's going to really take the crypto and Web3 world mainstream?
Vertical. Yeah, it's really tricky question. A lot of people, talk about gaming, uh, and though I believe like there's a lot of kind of good game being developed, I'm not sure how much they will help Web3, right? Because they eventually, effectively, we see that they try to abstract it away. So how much it will affect, I'm not sure. Um, yeah, I honestly believe in integration of like crypto in daily life. Again, which kind of been topic, a long time ago, and people don't think about it that much, but we still see, even with our like clients and what people advertise, we see very interesting traction, coming to these platforms where they allow to spend crypto on the physical world goods, like different tickets or, top up your phone or things like that. Um, and again, it's super primitive idea, but we see interest to that. And I think, as number of such opportunities, such ways to actually spend crypto and use it as actual fiat money, indistinguishably. Um, yeah, I think it can help with adoption, for kind of a mass consumer. Because apart from that, yeah, a lot of things which we saw they were based also on speculation, so it's not really sustainable. So yeah, there should be kind of utility, and in the end of the day, utility should come kind of from not just experts but regular users who can spend crypto in their daily life and use their MetaMask just like as they use maybe PayPal now.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of startups for that. Like, I think Loli was one that I recently saw, and they're doing kind of like, I think you get Bitcoin back when you shop at different stores, and I believe they're getting a lot of success with that. So, yeah, it's really interesting to see these different, I guess, IRL use cases, right? And then you also have these decentralized networks like for computing, and I think there's obviously Helium for Wi-Fi and like connectivity. So, really interested in tip in like a decentralized infrastructure that uses blockchain. That's really interesting. And one question I do have is, how can customers work with Slice? Do you guys have a minimum spend requirement? How do they reach out to learn more?
Yeah, so we just roll out our self-serving interface. So it's something we will present gradually to more customers, but we are available uh, by all the means you can reach us. Probably the best would be our website, and there is kind of our email and our contact us form. That would be the best to start with. For both for publishers and advertisers. So for in the just I mean, to clarify to people that we work as two-sided marketplace where we have publishers who place advertising and whom we help to monetize by paying them, and we have advertisers whom we help to tap into audiences of these publishers by placing their ads there. So it's kind of a way to acquire users, and kind of advertisers pay us for the traffic, and we pay publishers in the end. So for both publishers and advertisers, we're happy to discuss, happy to meet new people. Contact us form would be the best way to start. From there, again, probably we would offer to hop on a call just to chat first to see what the needs, how we can help. If it's really a good fit, if we can share more data from there. We have some kind of metrics and some like due diligence information to share before we start. And then, basically kind of we share the link to the platform where they can start playing around and set up their campaigns, with different segments, with different filters, to control their CPM, their spend, and things like that. For the minimum spend, I mean, it changes with time, so I don't want, just to give one number and we call it after. But I would say, I mean, it probably makes sense to start like above $1,000. Something smaller, it's hard to kind of make it work and even to see representative numbers, because the display ads is basically it's a numbers game. You need to test a lot of things. You need to get a lot of traffic even to start seeing first results. So again, and I'm not really worried, telling that, even though it will discourage some potential users, because the worst we can deal with is the kind of too high expectations when Web3 marketers who never did marketing before come to us and say, hey, here is $100, I want kind of 100 whales. Can you give it to me? And, the answer is no. In fact, we just published on Twitter like one research from one research company, which showed the price of the cost of user acquisition for major kind of protocols, through airdrops. Looking at the retention after a few months at the price of token, what it actually cost to get these users to use these protocols. And the minimum price is above $1,000 for a single user. And like for Optimism, like for Arbitrum, for tools, for protocols like that, it goes in thousands of dollars. So yeah, this pool is small. The users who actually active users in Web3, they are very valuable because they're willing to spend, they're willing to invest, they can generate a lot of value. But also, advertisers need to know how to work with them, and they need to be ready to test, to approach their marketing strategy seriously, and not just to hope that they will, just buy like whales for $1. So yeah, I mean, we will start probably somewhere from 1,000 and above, and but there you have all the tools to actually measure the conversions, measure the CPC, the click rate, try different creatives, try different formats. So it's all kind of possible, and only this way it actually can work and be successful.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So guys, go check out Slise, Slise.xyz. I think definitely one of the more interesting Web3 MarTech products out there.